So rather than, if you're trying to give somebody feedback, rather than talking in terms of like, oh, the thing that you're doing is like coercive, even if they kind of know the concept and they're theoretically bought into that, it still can come across as sort of just shorthand for bad. Don't do it, which is not very useful as feedback. Um, Instead, you know, if you can get in touch with just the structure of what's actually happening and point at that more directly. So it's something like, um, I it seems that you are trying to get me to do stuff by creating problems for me until I do the thing, which is sort of a description of what coercion is. I'm going to create problems for you until you do the thing that I want you to do, and then I will stop creating problems for you. And then you can say, and like that's one way that people sometimes try to motivate each other, and it sometimes kind of works in the short term, but it also makes me not want to interact with you at all. And I mean, I would like to have a you that I can interact with without getting problems made. I would also kind of like to do the thing that you want me to do, but I don't really want to engage with the entire situation when it's it's having this structure of generating problems for me, because now we just have two problems. And if you could instead, work with me to help me find a better way, like, there's some reason why I'm not already just doing the thing that you want. And maybe that's because I don't know how and I need to learn. Maybe that's because I don't know how and I need to look it up, or I need to figure it out. Or maybe it's because I have something else that's really important to me right now. Can we look together at how we can solve this problem that you have, rather than just trying to dump more problems on me until I go and fix it? And when you put it all in terms of like, this is language that you could kind of use with like a little kid, right? Like this is very basic language. Like you're making problems for me, right? It's a very, very simple language. Um, when you put it all in those sort of simple structural terms, people can start to see, oh yeah, I am pushing you away by making problems for you. Hmm, I don't really want to do that. Like, and when you get into more subtle stuff, like the ways that people try to use praise to motivate each other and the sort of implicit power structures in that, that's when you get into like, it can be a little harder. Although even there, you can just try putting simple language to what you're observing. It's like, it seems like you're using those words like good job as if you expect me to like sort of respond to them like a dog treat. And I while I care a lot if you think I'm doing a good job, the dog treat energy is like getting in the way of me feeling just like we're colleagues, right? It's like a thing you might say. And so again, like being able to just say, here's what I see is going on in simple language, and here's what impact that has on me. Here's how I actually experience wanting to respond here, which I think is not sort of what you think is going to be the effect of the strategy that you're trying to use. But then not actually saying, so you should change. Like you're not trying to create any problem for them so that they'll change. You're just trying to let them know that there actually is already a problem that they already have, because what they're already doing isn't working. And that's different from, I mean, it gets tricky, but that is different from creating a problem for them actively in any way.
Mm.
Although, as I was saying, it can be hard to tell the difference.
Mm. For sure, yeah. It's also basically like giving feedback isn't necessarily as a bit of a weird connotation, because then you're like trying to change them in that way, but you're like sharing exactly what's going on inside of you, instead of like either, because that's what I notice, what I can do a lot of in those situations, like just like suck it up and like not sharing that I actually dislike the way people talk
Mm-hmm.
to me in that way, and then I'm like, okay, whatever, like this doesn't feel right, but I'll do it anyway, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily nice, because then I suck it up, but they also don't know that I'm like
Right.
actually a
And
bit
then the
frustrated by
resentment
that.
builds up, and then
Yeah,
there's an
exactly.
explosion, and then they're like,
Yeah,
why didn't you tell me earlier? And you're like,
yeah, yeah,
I didn't think
yeah.
that would work very well. I mean, I thought of it, but last time I tried that with somebody, they got really mad then. And I don't know, just kind of thought maybe it would go away if I didn't. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
responding to local incentive gradients, man. Like,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. I think that's really, that in itself is a nice mechanism of like, whatever you're doing, it's like I don't really even mind it, but it's building resentment in me right now, and I don't want to have resentment to you. So that's
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, that's really, really simple. Because again, it's like you're not saying, don't do this or I'll punish you. You're just saying, hey, what you're doing right now is creating this problem.
yeah, yeah,
Like, and that maybe even in the context of hey, I know you think you're trying to help by reminding me to do this thing, but it actually just activates my inner rebel a bunch, and then I don't want to do it. And like,
yeah,
I could do some work on my inner rebel. Like, what you're doing isn't intrinsically unhelpful. It it could actually be a helpful reminder if I didn't have such a big inner rebel. But right now I do have a big inner rebel, and so it's anti-helpful. So it's
yeah,
not being able to see that both people are participating in some process of this being unworkable. But
yeah,
you're sort of saying, well, here's where I'm at right now. I don't know how to do anything different with
yeah,
this.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you do either. Maybe these things are just
yeah.
a little bit unworkable for now, or very unworkable in some cases.
That's really cool that you can set like a boundary for like the moment right now. Like, this is, sorry, but this is where I am at right now, so this is where like I need to set a boundary, but it doesn't mean that it's like still, this boundary is still there in a month from now if I maybe like do more work on myself, for example. It's like this can shift, but right now this creates resentment, and this is all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, cool. Nice, man. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I'm pretty happy to like it's a bit like far thought, but I'm happy that am I feel way more ready to like be on the right path of becoming like the parent that I want to be
Mm,
than, for example, before I was introduced to this. Because before I was introduced to this, I was like, I have no idea I want to do all these kinds of stuff, and now I have some kind of direction in this all, which makes me feel pretty good about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the core principles here are get Sean into even sharper relief when it comes to parenting as a situation, because it's a situation in which you have a whole bunch of power and you also have a kind of responsibility for organizing somebody else's experience and I don't quite want to say behavior, but like um some amount of their executive function. Like that just is actually the responsibility of a parent for like an infant, and then like somehow isn't by age 18, and like
Mhm.
and in some sense substantially earlier, but uh, so being able to puzzle apart like like first of all, like what is actually my responsibility as parent here? And is it to like control my kid's behavior altogether? Or is it to just like find a way for my kid to like get their own needs met while not like bothering other people too much?
Yeah.
Right. And like, does that mean the kid needs to do anything in particular? No. Like, they just need to be able to deal with situations that arise where what they're doing is conflicting with what somebody else wants and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
And there may be many possible solutions to that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
nice.
Well, I want to head to bed shortly, but I feel like we've recorded a nice little juicy video here.
Yeah. Yeah, cool, cool, man.